Welcome to the HerStory Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hello there, guys, and it's a privilege to be here and to just be showcasing to you from this, I'm going to say the sunny sides of London, but I'm Michelle Watson, and I'm a best-selling author, multi-award-winning speaker. I'm the founder of the Iconic Woman and Break Free Forever Consultancy, and this is where I help entrepreneurs and individuals with ideas go from a place of idea to actually implementing and creating not only their desired life, but also their business, their story, their books. And it's been a phenomenal journey. I didn't start off this way. I started off, in the sunny sides of Jamaica from the age of 3. I went on a holiday. Could you believe? I went on a holiday with my grandparents at the age of 3 and didn't come back until I was 19 years old. And that helped to craft, I believe, the foundations of where I was going next. And I ended up being in an abusive marriage when I came back to the UK. And that abusive marriage really took a lot of my identity. It took a lot of who I was at the time. And so I lost my voice. I no longer believed in myself. And throughout that journey, I ended up developing a tumor. I started to have suicidal tendencies. And before you knew it, I went down the road of attempting to take my life. And I got to a point of realizing that I had allowed someone else to take the pen that would be writing in my life, my book called Life. And I was allowing them to determine my state. I was allowing them to determine my future. I was allowing them to determine my purpose. And I realized at some point that I needed to take that pen back, if not for myself, but at least for my 2 children at the time. And that is what I did with the help of my church, my community, my family. I was able to take that pen back. I started to dive deep down into personal development, something I didn't know anything about. And I started to claim back my identity, who I truly was as an individual. And what I realized on this journey was that I had to go through a place of forgiveness. One, I had to learn how to forgive myself because I blamed myself for the decisions that I made. I also had to learn, more importantly, to forgive the person that I called Jekyll and Hyde, because that's what he was. He would change sporadically, right? And through that journey of forgiveness, I realized that, you know what, that situation didn't make me bitter, but in fact, it made me better. It made me a better person. It made me able to recognize the strengths that I had within me that I didn't know I had. And so it was with that I decided that I didn't want to just experience this for me. I wanted other people that were dealt the bad card that I was dealt to also be able to get from a place of what they would call that dark rot to actually recognizing who they truly are and making use of their potential, turning that pain into a passion. And that got me on the journey of writing my first book. I am now an author of 5 books, and I've been showcased in 3 anthologies. And being on that journey of sharing my story, that opened the platform to me speaking on stages, speaking to various different women from all over the world, and realizing that actually I have something here that a lot of people have experienced. And so that part of my story was not actually a dark part of my story. It was me going through a tunnel of life and picking up the pieces of, I guess, the different pieces of me that would make me the whole person that I am now. And I ended up being a train driver. So it wasn't that I just went from point A to point B. I ended up being a train driver. You know, we go through various distractions and denials on the journey. I ended up being a train driver. And whilst driving the train, I realized this. Yes, Michelle, you're taking from people from point A to point B on their daily journey. But there's something more deeper. You actually want to work with people to take them from the point A of the pain to point B of it being a passion and a purpose. And that is what started me on this magnificent journey. And you know what? I've absolutely enjoyed every moment of it. I've not regretted any moment of it, because every moment of it is what's made my story. And just like you've put it beautifully, Gertrude, you know, her story. And that's what's helped to make up my story. And I wouldn't have it any other way. One of the things that I had an epiphany at some point during this journey, where I was sitting in my office and I saw, it was like this vision I saw. And it was at a point in time when I wanted to give up. And when I saw this vision, what really transpired or happened for me in this vision is like, I saw myself going through a tunnel, and there was all of these, it was a very rocky place, and it was very dark. And as I was going through this tunnel, I realized that there were lanterns spread out in various different areas. And as I went through the tunnel, I would pick a lantern up. And by the time I was going through, it was now better for me to see because I had all of these lanterns in my hand. And so I was no longer tripping, I was no longer falling, and I came out and I exited the tunnel with all of these lanterns in my hand. But then as I exited the tunnel, I realized that I was hearing a lot of cries coming behind from within the tunnel. And I realized that there were people coming through after me, and they were falling, and they were hitting against brick walls, and they were falling into pits and holes. And some of them weren't able to get back up. And I looked at the lanterns in my hand, and I realized that I took all the light with me. I exited the tunnel and took all the lanterns with me. And so those people coming through after me had nothing that they could use to be able to see. And it was almost like a camera rewind that allowed me to go back and see this image in a whole different way again. And I saw myself going through the tunnel again, but because of what happened the first time, I knew exactly what to do. And so I only took one lantern. I took the first lantern that I approached. And even though it wasn't easy to see and navigate, I still allowed myself to fall and get up and brush off. And I would, at every different intervals that I came across an obstacle, I would make a note of encouragement on the wall. And this time, yes, I would say that the second time around, the journey through the tunnel was a lot more difficult, and it was a lot more harder. But the thing is, I did make it out. I did exit. And as I exited, I remembered that there was going to be people coming through that tunnel after me. And so I started to shout back and give directions. And what was beautiful is that some of them would fall and they would get back up and they would look at the quote that I've left on the wall. And they would be encouraged to keep going. Some of them would be able to take up the lantern and be able to see. And yes, just like myself, they fell, but because of the lantern, they were able to know how to get up and where to navigate. And that what I realized was that vision was me recognizing the reason why I've been placed here on this earth. And I realized that there's so many gifts and talents and potential within me that I cannot exit life carrying and taking away with me, because they're going to be beneficial to the people that I will be leaving behind, the marks that I will leave behind even after I've left this earth. And so I really hope that this vision that I had also encourages you, because sometimes we don't recognize what is within us. We don't recognize what our journey entails, the beauty of our journey, and the lessons, the life lessons that we go through. I don't call them mistakes. I call them life lessons. And it's those life lessons that we learn from, and then we're able to pass those lessons on to other people. And so this vision helped me at a very dark time in my life. I was diagnosed with AS. And for some people, they don't know that, they normally know MS. I was diagnosed at the time with AS, which is an inflammation of the spine. I had days when I wasn't able to get up. I had days when I couldn't move. I had days when I was inflicted with so much pain that it's almost like I didn't want to be here anymore. And that vision came to me at a very important and crucial point of my life. And, I share this vision openly with the hope that it encourages somebody else that feels like giving up at some point, in knowing that the journey that you're going through is not necessarily our story. It's somebody else's story. It's a story that you're going to share with somebody else that's going to help them get through that difficult moment of their life. That is the lantern that you're leaving behind. That is the many quotes that you're leaving behind when you write your book, when you share a quote, when you share and leave your content behind. So my encouragement to you is let's not be selfish. Let's not look for the easy ride out and the easy way out of life, because some of those challenges that we go through, it's a stepping stone to what God has created us to experience and for us to leave behind for others to be able to build from. And so that's my story.
Wow, Michelle, listening to you speak is like listening to a little mini me. Everything you've shared is so in line with what the Her Story Circle platform is all about.
Mm.
We are all challenged with all kinds of life experiences. But if you just stop for a moment when you're in the middle of it and know that the Creator will never give you a challenge you can't overcome. And when you overcome it, you have to become a teacher. You have to share that knowledge. Incredible story.
Thank you.
Now, what inspired you to start the Break Free Forever Consultancy Limited? And what is its core mission?
Right. So when I started this, it came at a point where I didn't even realize what was happening. So after I wrote my first book, and something I didn't want to do, I was always journaling, and that was my escape. And I went to an event, Les Brown, in fact, I went to an event, and my cousin said to me, Michelle, you have so much story, you have so much experience in you. You need to share this in a book. And I thought, no, who's going to read a book for somebody that attempted suicide and parenting a child with special needs and all of these things? And I was like, no. And I remember having a conversation with a lady once, and it really opened my mind to realize that, Michelle, people could actually benefit from your talent and your story. And so that's how I wrote my first book. And I started off by speaking in schools, speaking to parents with children with special needs, and speaking to both women and men that experience domestic violence. And before I knew it, I was doing it in the community. Then I started doing community events. And it's just weird how when you take one step, the door opens up to so much more. And then my work got showcased at some point because of my son who had special needs, and the Queen at that month was visiting schools and visiting communities and really focusing on this. And I ended up coming home one day receiving a letter from the late Her Majesty the Queen, just commending me for the work that I've been doing in the community. And then I went and I decided that I need to take this further. I signed up to a coaching academy to become a certified coach. And that's how the journey kind of began. And the whole purpose around this was me helping people to turn their pain into passion. I strongly believe in the mission of a woman's voice being heard, because whilst I was in that marriage for 5 years, my voice was no longer heard. I was so silent that my identity got completely taken away. And it took a lot of work for me to get from that place to where I am now. And so my heart and my mind started to go to the people that don't have community. I was lucky enough to have community. I was lucky enough to be a part of a powerful church community. I have a massive family. And I sat down one day thinking about that woman, that man that has nobody, to be able to make them get from that place of darkness. And so that was the mission that I started out with. I wanted to be a light for these people. I wanted to be a voice for those that have experienced domestic abuse. I wanted to be a voice for people that no longer believe in their dream and their passion and think that, that's where their life has ended because of a traumatic situation that they've gone through. We've seen it so many times, and I know you have seen it so many times. Maybe women that have gone through rape, abuse, whether it be from a parent, a loved one. And for some reason, they make that be the end of their story. And I didn't want to be a victim. I wanted to be a survivor.
Man, it's just incredible what happens when you are living purposefully
Yeah.
and knowing why you're on this planet. Now, you're known as the iconic woman.
Mhm.
What does this title mean to you, and how do you embody it in your work?
Great. So the iconic woman, surprisingly, a lot of people look at it and they're like, it's spelled Eikonic.
Yes.
Why? And for me, the the etymology of the ICONIC is actually the EIKON. And it's a Greek word. And the first time I heard it, my pastor was preaching and she was talking about being that woman, that represents Christ in all you do. Having that representation, whether you're a businesswoman, whether you're a wife, whether you're a mother, what are you embodying? And I went away and this just sat with me. And I went going on a search of who is the icon, the EIKON. And that's what really came to me. Who am I representing? When I go out there, who am I representing? And I remember looking at my daughter and I remember saying to myself, my youngest daughter, and I remember saying to myself, because she growing up, she always wanted to imitate anything that I did. That's how she wrote her first book at the age of 6. She always wanted to be and do whatever I do. And I thought to myself, the image that I portray, if my daughter was portraying this image, would I be happy? Would
Yeah.
I feel fulfilled? Would I feel a sense of pride knowing that this is my daughter?
Yeah.
And so I started to look at myself from this viewpoint. So when I'm acting, when I'm speaking, when I'm in my household, I can't be one person in my household and be somebody completely different outside, right? My husband needs to know that if I'm standing on the stage, if he's in the audience, he can say, yep, she's saying the truth. Not him saying, look at that hypocrite, right? And so when
Mhm.
I go into the workplace, because there was a time, Gertrude, when I thought that I had to separate who I am as a child of God from my business. And I came to the realization that if he's the one, my creator is the one opening the door for me, how dare then I go through the door and leave him outside? And so I made sure that I'm very, very mindful of how I am, especially if I'm going to be a voice for others. What
Yeah.
is my character saying? Right. And so that is the reason why the iconic woman stands. Wherever I'm known, I want to be authentic to who I am. I don't want to show up as anybody else. And I say to people, if who I show up as you cannot work with, that means we weren't meant to work together. And that is fine because I'm not going to be loved by everyone. If you're loved by everyone, you're doing something wrong, right? And so
Sure.
the iconic woman, then that's who I represent. That woman that is authentic and real and true in herself.
So, what has been some of the biggest challenges in your career, and how have you overcome them?
Oh, a big one for me was imposter syndrome.
Mm.
Imposter syndrome used to hit me really hard. One, because I when I started, I still didn't, we all know that healing is a process, growth is a process. And so even though I took the step, there was still a lot of healing and times when things had to show up for me to recognize, ooh, girl, you haven't actually overcome this yet. You haven't passed this stage yet, right? And so I realized that one, I still battled with forgiveness. Two, I still did not believe in myself in my decision making because I used to think to myself, how could you have made such a decision to choose such a partner, have children with such an individual? You can't be that great at making decisions. That then trickled into my business life, right? I doubted every decision that I made. I had to receive validation from everybody. That then took away my authenticity because I was now showing up the way that I thought other people wanted me to show up, as opposed to me showing up for who I truly am. And I used to be shameful of my story. And so even though I used to go out and speak, I would make sure that there's certain bits that I would navigate or not actually say it in the way that it really happened because I realized that I was carrying a shame. And so imposter syndrome was a massive one for me because it trickled into the areas of a lot of other things, whether it be anxiety, doubt, holding me stagnant. And I got past this. There was once I spoke, twice, two times this happened. I think it happened one time and then I received a confirmation after that. I went to an event at a workshop and I was doing training, and there was a lady. She was actually a Muslim lady, and she came up to me. I gave out my first book to them freely at the workshop. And I was sharing my story. That was the first time that I was really open and real about what I experienced and how it affected me. And she came up to me, 15 years. She's been in an abusive marriage, 15 years. She's not been able to tell anyone. She said, if I tell my family, they're going to say, listen, your husband is providing for you and the children. That's all you need to know. She couldn't tell her husband's family. And so she was trapped and she broke down. And I thought to myself, there has to be a reason why she came and she told me. And I asked her, and she said, your vulnerability, the way that you were open about what you went through and did it, and even had moments where you were laughing and even kind of almost like making it feel as if you're no longer ashamed. And it was weird because I did feel shame, but I didn't show it.
Yeah.
And something happened a second time. I was speaking at Women Economic Forum in South Kensington, and a young lady, 20 odd years old, she was abused by her father. Her mother didn't know, even up until that point in time. Her mother did not know. For some reason, she felt led to tell me. And I realized, Michelle, you can no longer be fake. You can no longer be fake. You have to be the real deal. Get away. Remove yourself from this imposter syndrome. Even if it shows up,
Yeah.
stand true to who you are.
And what's fascinating is because of your honesty, people are now open to being honest with you because you have been honest with yourself. It's an incredible gift that you're giving everybody who comes in touch with you. Now, you focus on empowerment and resilience.
Yes.
Was there a defining moment in your life that shaped this focus?
Yeah, definitely. When I attempted suicide and to realize I came back from that, it's almost like I said to myself, God, you've given me another opportunity and I'm not going to waste it. And one of the things that I realized and on my journey, the Bible tells us that, sorry, I love, it's my favorite book, right? And I love going back to me. It's my global compass. It says all things work together for good, everything.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't see it at the point where we're at. We cannot see what is being formulated around us. My children have been a very solid part of my why. And them seeing my journey and seeing what I've gone through, I realized that I didn't have room to be open about my feelings and the pain that I went through. And that then caused me in some ways to be weak because I kept it and it was crippling me. Finding my voice allowed me to be resilient, but more so realizing that if I just give up, like, what is the essence of my story if I give up? These are I'm one that speak to myself. I ask myself a lot of questions. What will it benefit me if I give up? What will it benefit my children if I give up? We have to realize, or we have to come to a point in realizing the world is not rolling out a red carpet for us to just walk through life easily. That's number one, right? There's always going to be a pushback, especially when there's something great in you. I love analogies. And one of the analogies that I created once, or the image that I created was, if you have two houses, Gertrude, if you have two houses and you are a thief, if you see two houses and one is filled with valuables and diamonds and gems, and the other one, even though it's beautiful on the outside, there's nothing valuable inside of it. Which one of these houses are you going to go into? You're not going to go into the one that looks beautiful on the outside, but there's no valuables inside of it. You're going to go into the one that has the gems and the diamonds and everything valuable, right? And so I always come back to that scripture that says the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. So if he's coming at me to steal, if he's coming at me to kill my vision, if he's coming at me to destroy me, that's because there's something valuable in me. And that always pumps up a resilience in me to say that if I'm being targeted, that means that there are people out there that you don't want me to come into contact with, to make a difference in their lives, to help them experience their transformation. It's a ripple circle. It's a ripple effect. What you're doing with her story is something that's going to live many years after you've left this earth.
Yeah.
By the lives that you have touched. The enemy doesn't want that. So he will come at you to silence you 24/7, right? But it's having that recognition, having the recognition of who you are and your purpose. It will push you through the hard times.
It's so true. Let's talk about empowerment and personal growth. How do you help individuals to break free from limitations and step into their own power?
One of the first things that I look at is clarity and gaining awareness of not only where they are now, but also the past, right? And it's not a case of going back to the past and trying to wipe it out with this paintbrush. No, it's coming to a realization of, okay, how are those different areas of my past affecting me now? So we look at what's called the blueprint of your life, right? There's certain things that happen in our past and we don't realize how it's connected to how we are now. And it's not necessarily looking at that thing as a bad thing, but it's looking at how can I then navigate from that to now take it to a place where it's not a stone pressed on my head, but actually a stone placed under my feet, so that I can step away from it to what it is that where it is that I need to be. We then look at your belief system, because our beliefs, like one of the things with me, I was a workaholic. I still work. Yes, I'm still a grafter, but I didn't have self-care within me. I grew up with my nan. And so I saw my nan, she worked 24/7. This woman hardly slept. She was there for everyone, giving to everyone, but there was no balance. And so I grew up having that mentality in the sense of there should never, ever be a plate left in the sink. Don't care how tired I am. If I've started a task, I need to finish it. Even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, that didn't help me. It made me ill. So even though it was a good thing, I had to revisit it and strip away the things that didn't work for me. So yes, pull from the foundation of it. And so I help clients to do that, recognize the areas. And it's the same thing with business, because our personal life, people don't realize you are in essence your business. And so the decisions that you make, the things that you believe, it will come and it will affect your business. And so now self-care is important. I don't feel guilty if I leave a plate in the sink. I don't feel guilty if I've not completed a task overnight. I sleep, I wake up, take care of me, because if I don't take care of me, I don't love me. How can I then love someone else? So it's about putting that mask on before you put it on the face of someone else.
Oh, I love that. It's such a reminder to most women. So how do you balance spirituality and business, and how has that influenced your success?
Definitely. I love that question, because at the beginning, I did not balance it at all. At all. As I tell you, I'm somebody that's going to keep it very real. I did not balance it. I remember going into rooms, as I mentioned before, going into rooms and saying, I can't let people here know I'm a Christian. Like, what are they going to think? Nobody's going to want to work with me. I remember I ended up coming across Andy Harrington. He's a speaker trainer. And I remember going there, and this is an environment where majority of the people, even if they're spiritual, it's more, into crystals and all of these things. And I was looking at how bold these people were. But yet, despite them being bold, I wanted to be silent about who I was. And so I would not say anything, right? And so I got to a point where I realized, hold on, God, I'm actually treating you like a concubine here. I'm actually treating you like a concubine. I'd be in my church, I'd raise my hands, I'll pray, I'll go in my closet and I will pray. But then when I come out, I don't want anybody to know. Like, I would be happy to sit down and be amongst certain conversation. And I thought to myself, no, there's no way that I could grow to a level if I'm continuing to do this. Again, because it's tapping into the imposter syndrome. It's tapping into being fake in order to be validated and fit in. And I realized that wouldn't work. And it comes back again to me saying to myself, if somebody is not happy working with me because I'm a child of God, that's good. There's no, I have love for everyone. There's no division. There's no demarcation. There's no division for me, right? What it is that this is who I am. And if you don't desire to work with me or be around me, that is fine too. But
Mm.
this is who I am. And it really helped me in my business. It's made me be a stronger voice in my business because it tapped me more into my purpose and who I am as a child of God. And I am that without apology,
Yeah.
because I cannot be anything else and I cannot be anyone else. He gave me the opportunity to be here. He gifted me with the gifts. He took me through the pathway of where I was to who I am now. So how can I separate it? It's a part of me. It's who I am. There's no separation. There's no Michelle without Michelle. So there's no me without me showing up in the authenticity of being a child of God. And it's really helped me in being true to myself, being true to my clients, being true to the people around me.
That is
Uh,
just amazing.
Thank you.
So, as an entrepreneur, what lessons have you learned about leadership and business growth?
Oh, wow. Leadership is so important because it's always remembering. And I think, especially in today's society, a lot of people, leadership seems to mean something completely different to them because they think leadership is bossing people around. Leadership is looking down on people. Leadership is, I'm here and you are here, so you should know your place, sort of thing. And that is not leadership. I, for me, being a leader is about being that person that people can look up to, right? And then them being able to look up to you also then means about the fact of how you show up as a leader. If they're grafting, you're meant to be grafting. If you're saying to them you need a mentor, you also should be having a mentor. It's not a do as I say, but don't do as I do sort of thing. That's what a lot of people are doing now in leadership, right? Leadership is being about that authentic leader showing up, being the person that even when they fall, you can pick them up, not you putting your foot down on them further. A lot of people feel that leadership is stepping on the head of somebody else to get to where you are. No, that is not leadership. Leadership is if I'm 2 steps ahead of you, then I should be able to reach a hand down and pull you up. That's a leader. That's a leader. If I'm just going, but there's nobody coming up behind me, I'm not leading anybody because you cannot lead if there's nobody behind you to lead. You know what I'm saying?
That
There's no.
is so true. That is so true.
That's my belief of
So,
what leadership is.
my last two questions for you are a bit of a thought experiment.
Yeah.
In the first one, I'm going to teleport you into the past,
Mm,
and we are going to go and have a conversation with the younger you,
wow.
the young woman who found herself at a crossroads, gone
Mm,
through a divorce, getting this illness, just wanting to check out on life. Just
yeah.
in case there's a young woman who's listening to us right now, if you could go back and give her 3 nuggets of wisdom
Mm.
based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
The first one that comes to mind is remember that you were born a light. You were already born a light. And when you realize that you are a light, you realize that you can't switch that light off or you can't hide it under a bushel because it was meant to shine. And the fact that it was meant to shine, that means it was made for other people to see. And there may be things that will come to cover that light, but it's for us to go through the process. It's for you to go through the process of releasing it and knowing that even though dirt may come on that light, if you brush the dirt off, the light is still there. A diamond in the dirt is still a diamond. And so, even though you may be going through the toughest challenge of your life right now, the person that you are, the potential that you have is still within you. It's still within you. And it's just about being able to navigate and find a way to strip away the darkness, to strip away the dirt, and still allow that diamond to live at its truest value. The second thing that I would say is remember that your journey is a story. Your journey is a story, and so it will have the moments when you have to deal with adversaries. It will have the moments where you have a catalyst, where you're lifted up above the situation and your head can be above water. And yes, there will be another valley that you have to go through, right? But know that it is a story that has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And if you recognize that it's a story, also recognize that it's not just a story for you, because I believe that a story not shared is a message not heard and a life not saved. So you're living your story right here on earth, and it's a story that's to be left behind for others. And so continue writing. You may be in a nightmare moment, but it doesn't mean that your dreams still won't come to reality. And lastly, my encouragement to you, if you're a God-fearing person, hold on to him with everything that you've got, knowing that trusting in him will not make you to be ashamed. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. That means everything. When everything is falling apart, when everything is going wrong, trust him. When you don't understand why things are happening to you, when you cannot see a way out, trust him. Don't lean on our own understanding. Our own understanding, our own logic will tell us that this is the end of the road. But where the end of the road is may just be the beginning for you. After a full stop, there is a capital letter. After the end of one chapter, it's the beginning of a new chapter. So maybe it's just that you just need to turn the leaf and start writing a new chapter in your book called life. And that's what I want to leave with you today.
That is just amazing. Wow. Because sometimes we do forget those ups and downs. That's just life.
That's just life.
Nothing is ever level. Nothing is ever smooth. I have a thing that I do now when I hit rock bottom is I actually get excited because I think, okay, this is the lowest I've come so far. The only way from here is up. So hold on to your seatbelt because it's going to take you up again.
Definitely.
Okay, last question is again a thought experiment, and this time very futuristic. The work you are doing is leaving an incredible legacy. If I could take you into the future, go and sit and have a conversation with the future you at the age of 90. And this wise woman is sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her grandchildren, her dogs, her cats, her husband, whoever is with you at the end. If I could teleport you into the future to meet this wise woman who's led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
First thing that comes to mind is thank you. Thank you for the journey. Thank you for believing in yourself. Thank you for being true to who you are. Thank you for being authentic. Thank you for being real. Thank you for not just for being somebody that didn't just look for the easy way out, but instead look for the ways that you could become better instead of being bitter. Thank you for never giving up on you, even when you felt like giving up. Thank you for never looking down on others and believing that they too had something within them, because it's that for that reason that you have been able to make a difference and create a ripple effect, not ever writing anyone off. You've been able to make the difference in millions of lives around. You've been able to help others break free forever and not look back to the messiness of where they once were, because within that mess, they've created a message that lasts forever. Thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up and being that iconic woman, that image bearer, the one that was not afraid to say that you're a child of God, the one that was not afraid to be a mother, to be a wife, the one that was not afraid to start a journey after I nearly ended it. I just want to say thank you, and I love you dearly. I love you dearly.
That is just absolutely beautiful. And thank you for that last message. You know, I love to ask that question because a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in us. Is that quiet voice that says, say yes, say no, go left, go right, don't do it. And we look outside of ourselves for answers and solutions all the time.
Yeah.
Instead of going within. So I have a practice where when I get really stuck or if I'm looking for answers, I go into my meditation and prayers at night. And sometimes I go to bed with one simple question in my head. And it's as simple as, what is the next step? So I play with the energy of who I am becoming. I know she's there. I know she's 100 years old. She's had an incredible life. And like you were saying earlier, I am living my life to the full. I want to leave this planet having squeezed out all the juice that the Creator put in me.
Yes.
And having touched millions of lives through my work, through the curating of these incredible stories. So thank you for being an example of the possibility. Michelle, unless people see that it's possible, it's very difficult to believe that you can do it yourself.
100%.
So keep shining in your light. They say that it takes very little effort for a candle to light other candles.
I love that.
Exactly what I see you doing, passing on that flame and leaving this planet a better place than you found it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement with a vision to bring you the voices and stories of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to energize you, to inspire you, to motivate you, but most importantly, to empower you with next steps to take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Michelle, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have your website at the bottom of the screen. If anybody is needing some support in business and spirituality, please reach out to Michelle. She is a one-stop shop. So don't do it the hard way. Bye for now, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time,